Hey everybody, I am Molly with Robert and Molly Bees. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be going over how I transformed this armoire. We got this armoire off Facebook Marketplace, and I had been looking at Debbie Beard's Facebook page where she had just gone to France. And if for those of you that don't know, Debbie Beard is the inventor of DIY paint. And I came across this picture and I thought, I'm going to paint that armoire. It'll look just like that because I thought it was really pretty and different. So I ordered my paint and I got started. Here I am starting with Bohemian Blue. I am using DIY paint. It's clay-based paint. It only has 9 ingredients. It is really good stuff. Again, it is made by Debbie Beard with DIY A Go-Go. She's based out of, I believe, San Diego, somewhere in California. The colors that I ended up using were Bohemian Blue, Prom Queen, Skeleton Key, Farm Fresh, Petal Pusher, and Apothecary. And then later I do what ends up being kind of a wash in French linen. So here I'm just laying down the first, not French linen, vintage linen. Here I'm just laying down the first layer of paint. With DIY paint, I tend to paint in layers, and there ends up being probably 3 or 4 layers of paint on any given piece of furniture. It's just the kind of nature of that type of paint. With other types of chalk-based paint, you usually only put 2 or 3 coats of paint on. The DIY paint is really water reactive, and you don't have to use that to your advantage. In this particular piece I did, because like I said, later on you'll see me do a wash, and it just creates some really pretty patterns in the paint and gives you certain effects that other kind of chalk paints don't give you. I apologize for this part of the video. There is an awful lot of my backside on here. What are you gonna do? You're painting furniture. So after this, I ended up basically just taking some time to adjust the pattern of the paint colors on the armoire. I knew I wanted it darker on the bottom or deeper with blues and lighter on the top. Here I'm still working on the first layer, but this is me adding more to it to change how the patterns kind of come out. I knew I hadn't had the top as light as I wanted it to. I ended up putting more of the deeper blues in the kind of cracks of the slats there. I knew I wanted a little bit more variation. I didn't want just an ombre from the top to the bottom. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right here. Here I'm just adding some more paint. Like I said, I work in layers, and not that there was anything showing through, just DIY paint. It looks better with more layers of paint. I'm not really sure how to explain that, but it turns out really pretty. I really like it. Here I flipped the armoire upside down so that I can get the feet and the underside of what I want to painted. I'm using mostly Bohemian Blue here. I did have a little bit of a mix from a previous paint that was Bohemian Blue and Blue Iris, just to make the feet as dark as I could. The armoire is 60 inches tall, and I'm only 5'4", 5'3", really. So I had to do some climbing to get to everything, but I really like how the feet ended up turning out. So next I'm going in with the vintage linen. I had it upside down on purpose because I knew I wanted more white what ends up being the top of the piece. And I also knew I wanted to kind of do a wash, so I kept the armoire upside down because once you do this a few times, the white is more prominent at the bottom, with it being in the direction it is, and then when you flip it upside down, then there'll be more white at the top. So I also had played around with what type of liquid to use. I messed with water, alcohol, and hydrogen peroxide, and I ended up washing this with hydrogen peroxide because it separated the paint a really cool way, and it turned out really pretty. Here I am putting on a layer of clear wax. I knew I wanted to do that before I put the rust paint on because I wanted to protect this finish because I really liked how the paint had turned out. It almost looked like denim in a way. So here I am putting on the iron paint. I'm using Metal Effects iron paint. I got it off of Amazon, and once you put that paint down, you let it dry completely, and then you add another layer of the iron paint, and then you let it dry completely, and then you spray it with Metal Effects Rust Activator, and then you wait 5 minutes and you spray it again. So it's really cool stuff. The thing about patina paints, there's iron, copper, and bronze, and the copper and bronze end up changing to like a blue and a green, but you have a lot less control over how it's going to look. But one thing is, once it's all dried and finished, it's pretty easy to sand away. So if it's in a spot you don't like, then it's not a big deal. So this is before the activator. This is after the activator, about 24 hours later. I really like the Metal Effects paint better than the Dixie Belle patina paint because the Dixie Belle patina paint has to be wet when you spray the activator, and the Metal Effects paint has to be dry. And living in Florida, with it being so hot, the Dixie Belle paint dries way too fast for me to get the activator on. So here I decided I wanted the inside of the armoire to be a little bit more delicate because the outside was kind of a pretty grungy kind of. And with the inspiration photo being from France and that, I picked this decoupage paper and decided I wanted to line the inside drawers and the doors with it. I also painted the little cubbies with a tinted paint. I did tint it with a little bit of like a Bohemian Blue color. So I'm using Mod Podge to put the decoupage paper on the door, and then I'm using a piece of sandpaper, and I'm just very carefully sanding the edging so that the extra paper comes off. Then I'm using a box cutter to cut in where the slats are, and then I go through with a piece of sandpaper and very carefully sand all of the edges to get the extra paper out from those particular spots. It ended up being a little tedious, but I think it ended up making the final look more delicate and pretty. And I do end up putting some paint down in the slats of the door. Here I am just putting some paint in what's left of the exposed wood. I'm using vintage linen by DIY and tinted with a little bit of Bohemian Blue and Blue Iris. After that, I used 2 coats of polyacrylic over everything on the inside, the drawers and the doors, to seal it all in. And this is the finished product, and I think it turned out super cool. It's the first time I've had a project where I didn't freak out somewhere in the middle. I did some stenciling on all of the drawers, and I just think it's really cool and pretty. My husband loves this armoire. He wants to keep it. He said I could list it for 3 months, and then if it doesn't sell, then we're gonna keep it. Here it is next to the inspiration photo, and I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. If you like what you see, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will continue to post videos of furniture transformations on my YouTube channel. This piece will be listed for sale on our website at robertandmollybees.com. I will post that link in the description below, along with all of the products that I used to create this finish. I hope you all like it. Please like, comment, share. I welcome any comments and questions if you have any. And yeah, thank you so much.